Welcome to Close the Door and Come Here, Game of Thrones, A Song of Ice and Fire podcast with heavy leanings towards our two favorite characters, Jaime and Brienne.
There was a bear there, all black and brown and covered in hair. From there to here, from here to there, the bear, the maiden fair.
Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to get through this thing called Game of Thrones. It's a strange show, Game of Thrones. It hasn't made sense for a mighty long time. But I'm here to tell you, there's something else. The Winds of Winter, a book of never-ending character development. You can always see the motivation, good and bad. So when you change that channel to HBO, you know the one. It's not TV, it's HBO. Instead of wondering why this is all happening, ask yourself, why does it even matter? Because in this life, there are things much harder than watching Game of Thrones. In this life, you're still waiting for Winds of Winter. And if D&D try to bring you down, George, please, we're going crazy. Tonight we're going to cover Game of Thrones Season 6, Episode 1, The Red Woman. And joining me tonight, I have Clotho.
Hi, I'm Clotho Spindle, and I'm Clotho Spindle on Tumblr.
Kama.
Hi, this is Kama, and I'm Grammar Saves Lives on Tumblr.
Eon.
Hi, this is Eon, and I'm Eon Blue Negative on Tumblr.
The Dungeon Master himself, Wonkins.
Hi, I'm Wonkins, and you can find me at Wonkins on Tumblr.
And I'm Guile, at Guile and Subterfuge on Tumblr, and I am moderating this episode because Lot is off doing something extremely exciting. She won't tell us what. Actually, she will. I just won't tell you.
Actually, she's dead because when you die in the D&D game, you die in real life.
Oh my god, wait. Are those spoilers for the game?
She is so gonna kill you.
The mind makes it real.
Well, okay, so we're sad to announce the death of Lady of Tarth-Pose. But moving on.
I traveled to Canada to kill her.
Beyond that murder, we'll also have trigger warnings for probably some rape discussion and for General Sand Snakes. So we open the episode on a cool new overhead view of Castle Black. We hear Ghost howling as the camera zooms in on Jon, who's dead in the snow. Ghost is trying to bang his door down, which draws Davos' attention. He sees the body and rushes across the courtyard to find Jon. He's soon joined by some of Jon's most loyal men, including our delightful Ed, who for once is at a loss for something sardonic to say. They grab Jon and lay him down on a table, but he's still dead. Ed shuts his eyes and immediately accuses Thorne of the dirty deed. Davos asks who he can trust, and Ed says only the men in this room. Melisandre knocks on the door, and I was trying to figure out what she was doing there. I'm assuming it was a booty call. She sees Jon, who is still dead, and reflects how she saw Jon in the flames fighting at Winterfell. And Davos is like, yep, that's cool, but he's still dead.
Did anybody... I noticed, Chicky pointed this out to me the other day, and people have been tweeting about it. Whenever they remove Jon from the snow, you see the blood stain, and a lot of people are saying it looks like a dragon.
Yeah, I thought it looked like a dragon, too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I did not notice. So I missed this. I watched this, 2 times. Second time was kind of painful, although I did like this part quite a bit. Why did they decide to bring him inside? Did they think he was alive? Because it really looked like they realized he was dead, and I was just puzzled as to why they thought they needed to move him indoors.
It's kind of just a nice thing to do with a body instead of leaving it to decay outside.
Right.
Well, yeah, I get that, but I mean, when you're in a castle with, a bunch of people who probably are going to try to kill all of you, it just seemed a little... I realize I should probably just let this go. It's for when they're going to bring him back or whatever,
well,
but...
there's the sign that's marked traitor, though. There's the sign that's marked traitor and everything, and that's their bud. That's their friend and everything, and I'm sure they don't want anybody to probably mutilate his body even anymore. I don't know.
I'm just saying, in the RPG, if a bunch of you die, I'm leaving your corpses there.
Save yourself. Save yourself, Ed. Save yourself.
Loot the body.
So,
Don't worry, nobody ever buries bodies in RPGs. Nobody.
So we go across Castle Black to where the Brothers of the Night's Watch are in an uproar over Jon's murder. And Thorne, to his credit, kind of immediately cops to the deed along with the other officers. And he admits he didn't like Jon, but that Jon was going to destroy the Night's Watch with his pro-wildling policies, leaving him no choice but to commit treason. And frankly, Ollie couldn't be any more smug during this whole exchange.
I just wanted to slap that smug little face off.
He looked like he aged about 4 years in the last year, too. Like, now he's like a young man.
Oh,
He's
easily.
an asshole. Yeah.
He's no longer the cute potato boy of doom. Now he's like, young adult potato boy of doom.
Yeah. He's like on Joffrey levels of smugness at this point. So I kind of felt that Thorne actually, it seemed like he was convincing the crowd a bit during his speech. And do you guys think that that's what happened? Did he really convince them that he was right about this?
I wasn't buying what he was selling, but it looked like some of the men were.
Yeah, they started out bitching about murder, but then we didn't really see any follow-up to it.
Yeah, and apparently all of the supporters are just in that little room with Jon Snow's body. So...
it sort of seemed like faulty logic to say, we committed treason, but, what he was doing was more treasonous. Seemed to be his argument, but...
Mm-hmm.
And
I think most people at Castle Black are, if they're not officers and if they're not secluded in Davos's little group, then they're probably just trying to stay warm and they're just going to follow whatever orders that the big officers give them because they're just, peons. They don't really need to be convinced. They're just there to follow orders.
They seem to get over their outrage pretty quickly. You murdered him. I hate you. Oh, okay. I guess you had your reasons.
I guess if they were trying to achieve something else with the scene, like if we were trying to get a sense that they were just following along because they were too scared, or if they were really, it wasn't terribly clear to me. I honestly don't know. I don't know what the intent was. So if they meant it to be something more, they didn't do a good job.
So if we go back...
Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. No, go ahead, please.
What I pulled away from the scene was that it was kind of reaffirming that Alistair doesn't have really much experience with the Whites or the White Walkers because he's always been at Castle Black when the audience and the other Black brothers have seen the supernatural stuff. He saw giants with wildlings, but that's all the supernatural stuff he's seen so far. So he doesn't really consider them a threat because he hasn't seen them firsthand. So his only concern is wildlings and what Jon has done with the wildlings. Like he doesn't. Whereas Jon saw it firsthand, so that was his primary priority. Know what I mean, Jean?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Totally, yeah.
So we go back in the room, and Davos and Ed kind of talk strategy, and Ed is basically ready to die, but Davos suggests they get the wildlings to help, and Ed rushes off, and we kind of close that little short scene. Anything to add there?
I thought the acting was excellent. I don't remember the name of the guy who plays Ed, but he was doing some good stuff. And
Ben Crompton, I think.
Yeah, and Liam Cunningham as usual. And I really like Owen Teale. It's Teale, I think?
He's a great actor. Yep, he's great. Who plays Alistair?
He does a nice job.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I like the line where they say, "Heaven help us because the world rests in the hands of Dolorous Ed" or something. I don't know if that was in after the episode or if it was in the episode.
So we move over to Winterfell, and we have Ramsay reminiscing about his young love for Miranda. And I loved when she smelled of dog. Oh, Ramsay, you can come in my car, if you want to smell dog.
Sure.
Just when you're ready to feel sentimental about these two little psychopaths in love, though, Ramsay breaks the spell by telling the maester that Miranda is, quote, good meat, and to feed her to the dogs instead of burying her, burning her body.
I love it.
I would just like to point out that she fell face first. I actually watched and they show a clip, on the, they're previously on. She fell face first, and she was very close to the ground. She was hitting, she would not look that undamaged. So I was kind of irked about that.
Maybe this was a really good, actually, if you think about it, though, the Boltons might have a pretty good maester as far as, putting people back together.
I guess.
Not as good.
Yeah, but did you see that maester's face, though, while Ramsay's talking to her body?
I thought this was the dumbest scene.
I think that's
I hated it. I didn't see what purpose it added. We know he's a psychopath. Why the fuck do we care about Miranda? I'm sorry. She was on the screen for 10 minutes. I don't care. The time could be spent on other things.
I think it's just to reinforce his psychopathy.
Oh,
Yeah.
like
Yes.
he needed that? I mean,
No, it also gave us a little touch of his like sensitive side because of what he felt about Miranda. And they pull the rug out from under that at the end of the scene with his final line about the meat, but it's still like a nice character moment where he's not just being a mustache twirling, tying a lady to the railroad tracks villain. You know what I mean?
I think we've gotten that other ways. We've gotten that other places. I thought it just really it rang false. He's unless it's there to prove that he's a total dumbass when it comes to strategy, because his main concern is her when his wife, the person he's everything hinges on, has disappeared and Theon's gone.
Yeah. I think they hit that in the next scene, when we get his conversation with Roose.
It was just so. Oh God, it was so wildly out of character, and it was so stupid, and it's been them all along trying to make him so very heterosexual and to try
really?
to.
I mean, I think the bathtub scene with Theon and Ramsay was like anything but heterosexual. Like, I think it's heavily implied that they
one beat, and the rest of it, I hated it. It made no sense to me, and
I liked it.
I liked it. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I liked it.
I could go either way. I could have done without it.
But I like it. But keep that passion for later, comma.
Oh, don't worry. I have all caps locks in my notes for most of it.
So we get to Roose, who wants to give Brienne a reward for killing Stannis, which I thought was kind of fun. If he only knew. Mm-hmm. And he warns Ramsay that they're fucked without Sansa, and the North won't rally to their aid if the Lannisters come calling. And then Roose threatens Ramsay with disinheritance. It was like the least subtle threat ever. And you're kind of like, oh, Roose, like, you know who he is. Like, it just seemed a little bit out of character to me anyway, for Roose to be so overtly threatening to someone that he knows is a psychopath.
Yeah, I mean, I get that it's TV foreshadowing, but it's not a smart thing to do. And then it makes voice not seem smart.
Are you guys implying that Roose is going to kill, or that Ramsay is going to try and kill Roose?
Oh, I think Roose is dead in the next 2 episodes.
Walda.
Oh, yeah. Walda, yeah, for sure, Walda. But I don't think Ramsay would ever kill Roose.
Oh, I think he's dead very soon.
Oh, I think he's going to get him. Yep.
I have a whole theory on that, which I won't share. But this part of the scene was fine. I think Roose is pissed, as much as Roose ever gets pissed because of what Ramsay has just fucked up again.
I mean, Roose has given him, every opportunity to help consolidate their power, and Ramsay's just flying by the seat of his pants. And, I mean, frankly, he had Sansa willing to play along if Ramsay could have been a normal or even a subpar human being for, like, a day. Yeah. That would have been fine. But, I mean, he really couldn't even do that.
And I thought I thought the previous scene, totally not in character. This worked for me. I realize I do have a blind spot for the actor who plays Roose, but I thought this worked. You could see he was pissed. He doesn't yell. He doesn't scream. He just gets nasty.
Oh, no, it's totally Roose. Yeah, he's cold.
And I thought Ramsay's response, yeah, I've got hunters. That's very Ramsay, too. That's actually very book Ramsay. I'll get them back or whatever. But it worked for me in the way that the previous bit totally did not. I can see I'm going to be the one lone voice against you all.
No, I think it's just that, no, I don't think so. I think it's just the Ramsay scene we differ opinion, which is the beauty of the conversation, right? Mm-hmm. So we move on to Theon and Sansa, who are running from said hounds. They cross this beautiful icy river to get the dogs off their scent, and they find their way to a little shelter in the trees. And then they cuddle for warmth, and you can kind of see, and I think it's brilliant acting, you can see that they both kind of lose themselves in this comfort of actually having a human touch again. And then they hear the dogs, and Theon tries to lure them away from Sansa pretty lamely. It doesn't work, and the Bolton men are soon upon them. And I'm assuming that these are not the murder dogs. These are like the tracking dogs, because they seem like they were fairly gentle, whereas the murder dogs would have
I have it in my notes that I didn't know if it was the floppy ears, but I was expecting like mastiffs or wolfhounds, or even like a group of chows would have scared me more than dogs.
A group of papillons.
Oh my god.
Chihuahuas.
I would have been so back in love with the show at that moment.
If there was
That's
a
all
gang
they
of
had to do.
papillons.
Or dachshunds or something. I don't know.
Wiener
I'd be
dogs.
surprised if Ramsay owned any non-murder dogs. Weren't they all murder dogs?
Well, I mean, these are, they obviously want to bring Sansa in alive, so I figure these must just be like regular tracking dogs.
They look like bloodhounds. And I'm sure they could murder someone, but they just didn't.
Yeah.
I think visually I'm just expecting something a little more scarier than...
Although now all I want are like a group of papillons. Like, that would be the best thing ever.
I would like fan art of a group of papillons trying to hunt them down.
Yes.
There's at least...
You cuddle them to get to death. So it looks like Sansa and Theon are in deep shit, but we get the arrival of Hurricane Brienne rolling into town. And basically Brienne and Pod wreck some shit. Brienne gets knocked off her horse pretty quickly, but she recovers and kills some dudes. And then kind of the fakiest part is she literally jumps up and knocks down a horse. Wow. And Pod gets in some killing, and even Theon joins in when it looks like Pod is going down. And I did kind of like that as a callback to Pod saving Tyrion on the Blackwater.
Oh, yeah. I didn't think about that. Yeah, that's a good point.
Was anyone else surprised to see Pod fighting off knights like that?
No,
Because
I
on the
figured
Blackwater it
behind
was like
the
a surprise
scenes.
attack.
Yeah, but like behind the scenes when they're looking for that candle, they probably had a lot of downtime for him to be practicing.
Well, and that actor is now, he's not playing a little kid anymore. That actor's he's another one who's grown up and looks like he's 25 or whatever, or 30. So, yeah, I mean, I was okay with that. It didn't work. It didn't bother me.
I kind of just wanted like a really quick short scene in between when she said, I'm going to train you, and this episode where to like show him training.
You want the
Have a
montage.
I don't want a whole montage. Just
With some Rocky music.
I want to see Podrick getting pummeled by Brienne in like a sparring match.
You want like the Westerosi version of Eye of the Tiger and like a montage of him getting beat down.
Chasing a chicken and drinking raw eggs.
Yes, I could be completely down with
That would be
this.
cool. Yeah, but and I think I was okay with it once he fell off the horse and was in a position where he wasn't about to win. Like originally I was like, oh, he's doing a little bit better than I thought he would do, but
I was a little disappointed that I was able to predict Brienne showing up in the first place, because it got to a point when the dog showed up and they find Sansa that like, okay, everything's screwed, but they wouldn't have developed this path if they were just going to get taken right back to the castle. So who else is in the area that could come to the aid of Sansa? It's Brienne. So it like as soon as I said that to the person that I was watching it with, Brienne showed up. It like 2 seconds later. So I was a little disappointed that I predicted it, but it was awesome to see Brienne kick ass.
So this was my first moment of like stupidness in the episode, though, because at no point, like, how do Brienne and Pod even know like who these people are? Like, they could have been killing like people loyal to Sansa for all they
I know.
knew.
I sort of assumed that because they heard the dogs.
sigils or whatever.
Well, they heard the
They
dogs.
could have followed them out of Winterfell. Mm-hmm. Like, oh, that's Ramsay men, or that's Bolton men, so I'm going to follow them.
Yeah, the dogs are loud.
We'll see. What they could have done is excise the eulogy to the character from the 10 minutes, the Miranda chick, and had a scene of something. They could have built up the tension better. The pacing in this episode felt very off to me.
I love the good meat line.
I actually like
take that away from me.
too.
I think the pacing sucked. The New York Times review, I don't know if you saw it, but they compared because it was such all the quick jump cuts and stuff. They compared it to the old Adam West Batman show.
That's
that is
wonderful.
But without the sound effects, like in Gotham, boom.
See, that's a good way. That's a good way of putting it. Because I kept thinking to myself, it felt like things were dragging, and then bam, something would happen. So maybe that's what I was experiencing. Because I couldn't think of exactly how to phrase it, but that works.
New York Times,
There was some controversy about what happened to the dogs, and I think someone on Reddit figured out that there were 6 guys, and Brienne and Pod and Theon killed 5 of them, and so the other guy took off with the dogs. But again,
he was in the scene with Ramsay.
Why do we have to work that hard? Like, just show us a cut of the guy with the back of the guy with the dogs running away.
Yeah, but
and then we don't even have to like theorize, you know?
Yeah, he was in the scene with Ramsay though, so I think they were assuming that people would recognize the dude. Like he was standing next to Ramsay when Ramsay was talking to Roose.
Right, but I mean after the fact.
Yeah.
They need, you know, maybe he's in a scene with them next week, but it's sort of like, well, don't make me work that hard.
Yeah.
You know, after all the bodies are on the ground, Brienne's kind of like, bitch, are you ready for my service now? And she lays, I mean, she's a bit nicer about it. And she lays Oathkeeper down at Sansa's feet, and with Pod's help, Sansa accepts Brienne into her service. And Brienne is pretty much at the top of the world. Like, I think she's literally crying. And Sansa looks like she wants to climb that tree, is all I'm going to say.
What?
The way Sansa is looking at her, that was like, I'm kind of in love with you, I think.
Well, she just saved her life. I mean,
I'm
that's
not saying
really
she should be, but she did look...
Yeah,
I
she did.
I'll take your word for it.
I wasn't getting any of that, but
it's the first person in like forever who not only wants to help her, but wants to help her wholly, who isn't like Littlefinger with his own agenda. And this woman has like a sword and can fight. So she's even like better than Theon, who's like, you know, not exactly your best option for a bodyguard. And also that whole like just... I love the scene. It was probably one of my favorite moments in the whole episode. And there weren't many of them, but I like the callback to Brienne and Kat. I love that.
Yep. Yeah. Totally. Did any of you tear up during this scene?
Yes.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Yes.
I did too.
it was good.
You guys were horrible. We're horrible saps. So, the opposite of that scene, and I think we should all take a deep breath before we tackle this. All right, so here we go. So Larry sails into King's Landing, and Carol is super excited to see her daughter again and rushes down to the harbor to meet him. Instead, she sees Larry's somber face and the unmistakable casket behind him. And Carol takes the news with all of the good grace we've come to expect from such a level-headed, so very human character, you know, not at all like a monster. And instead of blaming Larry for what happened, she actually reminisces with him about their mother's death. And, you know, at the time, this 4-year-old Carol really fixated on her mother's exact stages of decomposition, which I thought was really interesting and really was a really interesting, intelligent way to point out that Carol's soulmate is really Qyburn.
Really the only way to watch this. I mean, I just kept thinking... pod people, like not as in Podrick, but as in like Invasion of the Body Snatchers, where suddenly the people start acting totally different.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
who's acting different?
Larry and Carol.
I don't understand what. Okay, so I think they're trying to show us that Jaime is a worse person when he's with Cersei, because at some point he's going to realize that and then go off with it. So he has to kind of like regress back to season 1 Jaime in order to make that realization that, oh, Cersei's bad for me, because we take on the personality traits of people that we surround ourselves with. You know what I mean?
Plus Larry.
Okay, can you guys explain this? I realize that Larry equals Jaime and Carol is Cersei. Why are you guys calling them these names?
It's not our
not
creation.
Jaime and Cersei.
It's because I couldn't find out where it originated from. I don't know if it was Got Gifts and Musings or if it was somebody on Westeros.org or whatever, but a bunch of people have started to call show Jaime and show Cersei Larry and Carol because they are so totally not like the characters from the books. It's not that they're slightly different or that there's a twist. It's that those are not the characters. So whether you agree or not, that's what that means. So
I see. Okay.
I really was laughing about, because in the show, Jaime and Cersei are 4 years older than Tyrion, not 9 like in the books. Mm. So they really want us to think that this 4-year-old Cersei is sitting there after her mother dies wondering about the stages of decomposition. She's 4! Like, my God. What is wrong with these people?
I mean, 4-year-olds do not remember, I guarantee, the lips pulling away and all this other crap. I mean, I just, it's funny. I do follow a bunch of Cersei stans on Tumblr. And I've seen some stuff that I don't agree with, but it's wacky to see how much they hated this too. Because this is not Cersei. Whether you love or hate Cersei, this is not her.
I think children in Westeros are exposed to more dead bodies than we are in our modern day America.
That's
in
bizarre.
our non-
This was
modern
their
day.
first dead body, though, they said.
And I think this is not Jaime either. I think a lot of times some of the things he says, you can get, oh, he's so, delusional in love with Cersei, but saying something like, we're going to take everything there is. That was the last line he said. There's no argument that at any point in the books that Jaime really wanted anything other than to just pretty much be with Cersei. His goal is not to take everything, and you could say, oh, well, maybe he's saying this to appease Cersei, but I don't buy that. I just think that to me, it just felt completely out of character.
And it's not even internally consistent to this season. When you read the little note that Dorne gets later, where Jaime's saying, oh, your son can't be here, I can't say what my sister is going to do, blah, 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 blah. Like, he's saying the exact opposite to Cersei. And maybe he's saying it to appease her, but again, like, don't make me, the viewer, infer all of this shit. Like, if that's what you really want me to know, then make me,
just go there.
Then do that.
Well, if he wanted to be consistent, he would have pushed her into sex if he wanted to be consistent with show Jaime. Based on the last time a child died, that was the first thing he thought of. He would have comforted her with sex.
I couldn't watch that another time. But
I know. I don't want to watch it, but yeah.
This whole thing, it gets so much worse. And I was joking before the season began that what I was going to do is view this as, wasn't it fortunate that D&D got HBO to produce their fan series and got professional actors and set people to put this all together? Because it's felt very much like fan fiction to me. And I'm watching this going, oh my God, they need a beta so badly. They need somebody going, what the hell are you doing here? If you're going to write original characters, at least have the decency to, give them other names.
Well, I kind of feel like, it's sort of like the role that Brian Cogman started with on the production in the first couple of seasons, and maybe as he's progressed into his new role or his expanded role in production, they don't have someone at that level grounding the characters with the books, and then, at this point, probably not the books, but with like the first or second season version of those characters. And I think there's other examples of that as well, where some of the internal consistency within the show is lacking.
None of this stuff bothers me.
Anyone else want to get a dig in before we move on?
Or praise it?
Yeah, I'm sorry, or praise it, yeah.
Did you guys watch the after the episode where D&D were talking or whatever?
Oh, it made me,
yeah.
It made me even more
I
mad.
threw up a little in my mouth, but yes, I did.
It explains why they do what they do, but
that's why I think she is a monster.
I appreciated that note that he made where he said our show Cersei is different than book Cersei. When I watched that, I was like, the ladies are gonna have comments about this.
I just find show Cersei so fucking, I'm sorry, I'm swearing so badly tonight, so watered down and so stripped of all of her fire and her rage. And then why do this show? Go make up your own fantasy. Go call it something else. I mean...
And I don't care about Cersei so much, but by making Cersei this watered down, non-insane character, they ruin Jaime.
Yeah, I think that's what it is for me.
If Cersei's not paranoid for no purpose, if she legitimately is paranoid because people are killing her kids, and the Tyrells are out to get if all of that's true, then what does that mean for Jaime? You can't have it both. You can't have it both ways.
Yeah,
and I think.
Yeah. How is the way forward for them? Because then it becomes this situation where he's abandoning someone who he's clearly, seriously still attached to. How do you do that? How do you do that? Or are they just going to abruptly do it, and then it loses any meaning, and it becomes very different.
It's about what happened, not about who it's happening to.
Yeah.
Right. I would say, Jaime still doesn't know about Cersei sleeping with Lancel yet, and I would think that that's going to be revealed in this season.
And Moonboy, for all we know.
Right.
I would love that. I would love that if they did that. But I don't know how Jaime would handle it. I think this Jaime might just go kill Lancel.
Well, I think what they would do is he would eat them. He would kill them and eat them, and he'd be the monster that D&D think he is. Because they've said this. They don't think she's a monster. They think he's a monster. So God only knows what we're going to get.
I think that Cersei will go insane. She's just taking a moment to mourn, kind of like the quiet in the eye of a hurricane or whatever, and then she's going to take her Kyborg Robert Strong monster and go out and kill some Septa Yelena and other people that have been fucking with her.
I think it's just that they've been in this state of nothingness for 2 seasons now, and we're all like at the end of our patience at this point.
It feels really redundant. I'm hoping it does.
Yeah.
I mean, I've kind of excused it and said, well, I'm hoping they're going for juxtaposition. Like, here's our calm Cersei versus insane Cersei, but I'm starting to worry that we might. But I would be happy if she did.
I kind of resent that we, as the viewers, have to make up the motivations and have to make up the reasoning behind things that are happening.
Right.
Like, tell a good story, and we don't have to do that. We don't have to make up reasons for why things happen because it's evident.
Yeah, it's a lot of work.
I just think it's a lot of work to justify why this is the way it is. So,
and it's fan wanking is what it is. It's not like, oh, okay, they did this because of that. It's just a small thing. It's constantly having to adjust it or to go, well, maybe they're going with this. I shouldn't be wondering in some of these cases.
Right.
I should have an indication.
I mean, let us be fucking lazy, Game of Thrones. Come on, it's like Sunday night. Like, my brain needs to shut down a bit.
Well, or set it up as a genuine mystery. But if I'm constantly having to wonder why these characters are out of character, what the hell is the point? It's not even consistent with their own characterization. This is my other problem. If you are going to go this way, okay, consistent with how you've portrayed these characters throughout all the seasons, and they're not doing that. They change it up from episode to episode. I think season.
Carol is consistent. She's just consistently wrong. Jaime is whatever they need him to be at that moment. Okay, so have we beaten this to death, you think? Let's move along. So Marge is in jail, and Septinella is all confessed, and she starts getting rough with Margaery. And the High Septon interrupts, and they've obviously got this whole good cop, bad cop thing going on. And Marge just wants to know how Loras is doing, but the High Septon wants her to confess and basically give her back to Tommen. And Margaery says she has nothing to confess, and the High Septon tells her that, no one is without sin, and tells her she's on the path but has far to go. And I think, this is obviously, this is an example of a foreshadowing that you don't have to think that hard about. So he's recognizing that Marge is someone he could potentially work with. She's on the path. Like, this is not a Cersei situation where there's just no middle ground or no, moving her. Like, he can move Marge, he thinks. But it was kind of, a quick scene.
I really wish they had gone a different way. I didn't think we needed this. I think it would have been far more interesting to give her, they've shown her as somebody who's got the political chops. To have her realizing a lot sooner, a lot faster, taking control of the situation, and sort of having the initiative to do that. And I think I would have found that more intriguing to watch. It would have been consistent with who Margaery is.
Yeah,
but
I don't know.
They don't like to do that with women. If you're not a warrior or a child or a mother, you're doomed.
Or whore.
I guess I wouldn't go that. I wouldn't go that far. I think like they've shown women to be pretty politically savvy, throughout the series. But I think the thing with Marge is that this is a game that she's not playing for her life or for her power. It's for Loras's life, and that maybe makes her a little bit more cautious. That's her main concern.
That's a good note. I like that.
Okay, so we have to take another deep breath, you guys, because we're going to Dorne.
Oh, God.
So Dorne and Ilaria talk about how awesome and cool Oberyn was, and then basically immediately after that conversation, Ilaria kills him, and Tyene kills Hota, because clearly Oberyn would have wanted it that way.
I am just having a hard time believing that Arya Hota could be killed by a midget with a bad pussy.
Oh my God.
I've given this some thought because Arya Hota was one of my favorite characters, and I screamed that I was so mad that they killed like a chump. Okay, so it was Tyene, and they've noted that she uses poisons before, and if that dagger had manticore venom on it, manticore venom kills instantly. So it's very possible that getting stabbed in the back maybe also if the manticore venom was mixed with a paralytic, that he would have just gone down like that. And it's so Game of Thrones to, at least in the book, set up this badass warrior monk who's married to his axe, and then just kill him in a second with
so horrible.
I mean, at least in the books, he got a chance to kill people with the axe first. You know,
she killed a member of the Kingsguard. I mean, it kind of like
him.
I have in my notes. I have 4 words. That's all I have for this plot. I don't even know.
I saw this meme the other day. It's a meme with Oberyn, and it says, "You killed it. You raped it. You murdered our plotline."
Yeah, I mean, I think actually the next scene is worse because it's just, you take away the plot. I mean, even if you thought the plot was okay, like the specifics of the Trystane scene are so incredibly stupid. He's sitting there painting the eye stones for Myrcella when Obara and Nym barge in, but he doesn't seem to be distressed by their entry or upset. He obviously must know they're in on killing like the love of his life, but he's just like, whatever, kind of reaches for his sword, but there's no panic. There's no, what are you doing here? I know what you did. Like, there's no reaction at all.
None.
He probably knows that the Sand Snakes killed Myrcella, so he's probably just expecting them to come after him too.
But shouldn't
Can we
he
go
be
back
like,
to the previous Dorne scene for a second?
Yeah.
Because I wanted to note that I appreciated the final shot of like Ilaria standing there like in front of the chair and whatever, because Dorne, when it was established from the Rhoynar people, was Nymeria, and so Dorne comes from a line of what do you call it? Female leaders. What's the word? Starts with an M, please.
I think they would not embrace this Ilaria as one of their own, but go ahead, keep going.
The only word that came to mind was bad pussies.
Matriarch.
Sorry.
That was the word I was like.
matriarch?
So it was to me, like, I interpreted that shot of like the return of the Nymeria type leader for Dorne. So it was kind of like nice in a historical perspective.
I think if it was Arianne killing Dorne, which would be, even worse, but at least then you could have that moment of her doing it to ascend to the throne, essentially.
So is that what Ilaria plans to do? She's gonna lead? Because I didn't get that. I just got that this crazy ass woman and her nutso daughters who can't even that they just murdered the monarch and his son, and they have no plans for anything to go into.
Do you guys remember?
And I don't even care about these people.
Yeah.
Do
you guys remember the Simpsons episode where Poochied joins Itchy and Scratchy, and like everyone hates Poochied, and then they write in an episode where it's just Poochied, like they just insert something into an episode where Poochie's like, I have to go. My planet needs me. And then they superimpose over the screen, Poochied was killed on the way to his planet. He's never coming back. Like, I feel like this is what they did. Like, basically, they're like,
bad Poochied.
And that's it. They Poochied them. They're never coming back. Or they are going to come back, but it'll be, via, dragons.
Oh, I hope they don't.
Were you guys surprised to see Doran be killed?
Well, I was spoiled. No.
I was spoiled.
I was surprised. I did not spoil myself because
I was surprised I didn't care. I like that actor so much.
I know.
And I mean, someone replied to one of my blog posts that, well, he got to film in Spain and probably had a good time, and I hope that was the case. But I love Indira Varma normally. She's a fantastic actress, but I have loathed everything they've done with her in this. It's just a waste of my time, and I resented it even more when I had to rewatch it for notes. I hate this story. There's nothing redeeming other than the great textiles.
I was going to say, the only redeeming thing are the textiles. Don't forget the textiles.
It's the only thing I care about with Dorne. Give me their fabric. Sell that in the HBO store, and then leave it the fuck alone. I don't care about these characters. You introduce these. They fucked up the Sand Snakes so bad. They fucked up Ilaria so bad. They got rid of Arya. It's a mess. It was a mess last season. Most people hated it. Why are they wasting our time with this? It could have been lifted out entire from the show, but no, they felt they had to go there, and it was just, I'm so mad.
It really makes me question if they actually read the Dance with Dragons books, and plus, I mean, the Dorne
What do you think?
Well,
Maybe
Lauren and
George.
Arya fought-
Maybe George.
I have a theory about this. I don't know if it's at all practical, but I'm guessing they read the first 3 books. And
must
then they
have
got
read the Cliff
tired
Notes.
and they had an intern or an assistant read them who came up with like a précis that they probably lifted from the wiki. And that's what they read. Because I don't know how you get their stuff from that stuff
Well,
at all.
do you think George told them that Doran died and that they somehow cobbled together this scenario? That maybe
I'd be
this is
shocked
coming?
if they're
George
still
told
speaking
him
to
that
him.
Egan. I think George told him that Egan was a fake,
Okay.
and so once you remove Egan from there, you remove the purpose of Dorne.
Okay, so they just wanted to take care
I
of
think. I think if you remove Egan, there's no long-term purpose, and then I think they thought the Sand Snakes were cool.
You don't
And
think
then-
that Dorne? You don't think that Dorne's going to join Dany when she gets to Westeros?
Dorne doesn't have a lot of. I mean, I think they will, but I think that. Well, actually, I don't know, because I mean, right now they're with Egan, and they could get wiped out.
What about in the
I
show?
think- In the
In
show,
the
I
show,
don't
I
think
think
they
they'll
have a
join
clue what they're
Dany.
doing.
No, I think there are spoilers for potentially Varys and potentially Olenna being in Dornish set, so there might be like an additional scene with those and probably Ilaria at some point. And I don't know what Namari and Obara are going to do in King's Landing, if anything. I mean, to be fair, King's Landing probably could use some additional characters for the plotline this season, but
those.
not them, God, but someone, but just anyone. So let's move on to another. Oh, go ahead.
I don't hate this Dorne stuff as much as you guys do. I hate the last time we saw Bran 100 times more than all this Dorne stuff. I actually enjoy this a little bit. Like I completely respectfully disagree with everything that you're saying about Dorne, but I cannot stand CGI skeletons ever. The end. We can move on. I just wanted to note that.
So I was going to go to another divisive location, which is, of course, Marine. And Varys and Tyrion are walking through the dangerous streets, which they think that they're super inconspicuous, which, apparently there are multiple dwarves sitting at Daenerys' right hand in the pit. But so they talk about Dany's popularity, and I'm kind of looking for an explanation from you guys on this. So they're sitting in this basically like a Reller meeting, and the priest is giving this sermon about how basically everyone should be their own mother of dragons. And to me, it seemed like that actually was pretty good advice, and that would be the way for Meereen to be successful. And then we have Tyrion saying, that's a problem. And I didn't really get that. Did anyone understand, like, why would Tyrion think that sermon was a problem?
Because the diction he was using was, he was saying things like, make your own fire or whatever. So he was making it sound like take power on yourself and burn down the establishment. Like he was promoting violence and war and anarchy. And it was just like if Tyrion and Varys are trying to make peace in Meereen, that kind of rhetoric is going to be acerbic and destructive.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with that. I think most of their ruling has never been about everyone should just do their own thing and hang out. I mean, it's all very much a hierarchical system, and even if they're in Meereen, that's the plan. I mean, Dany can talk about freeing people all she wants, but she's in charge and she's a dictator, and that's what dictators do. Mm-hmm. That's the political structure they have.
Your own mother of dragon. Screw this.
I think Tyrion and Varys we're gonna get future scenes of them like reshaping the red religion into a tool that they can use to be for Dany, because he just notes that it's a problem, and that I think that's how they're gonna deal with it. But
yeah,
I've been wrong before all the time, most of the time.
And also their fleet's burning.
That's okay because the Greyjoy fleet is on their way to replace.
Yep, exactly. So that's a good example of where they actually remembered continuity. Like they remembered that they had a fleet, so they had to burn it. Like, good job.
Hurry up and burn the fleet. Get it done.
So go ahead.
I love the scene where they had to explain that no, the dwarf is not going to eat your baby.
Oh, that was weird. And the joke, I felt stupid because I didn't really get the joke, the cock joke. It fell flat for me. So yeah.
Oh yeah, you're not a boy because you don't have a dick.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know why that we have to every single character. I mean, he must Actually, I did kind of like this poor man. Every time he turns around, someone's gonna mention he doesn't have a cock. Like, we all know this. And I'd love
his sad face.
Yeah, I know. I don't have one.
Face.
He's just full on.
But he's the one who's like begging to tell everyone his castration story. I mean, he really has no one to blame but himself.
Don't hide from it. Wear it like armor, and it will never be used to hurt you.
Right.
Yeah, there you go. So we flip over to Jorah and Dario, and they're hot on Dany and Drogon's tail, and they kind of have this nice little talk about their feelings. And while Dario talks, Jorah just listens. And Dario hopes he doesn't end up like a lovesick Jorah, but hopes that he lives long enough to see the world Dany will bring. Jorah spots the trampled ground of the Dothraki horde, and then
wait, you skipped over the part where they reminded us that Jorah has grayscale? Because I'm a goldfish, and I only have memory span of 6 seconds, and I don't remember that Jorah has grayscale.
And
Times.
They also missed a prime opportunity. Jorah could have totally taken out the competition. All he had to do was reach over, one little touch, and rub him on the face with it.
For sure.
It's New Dario and the Indexation of Doom. That's what that scene is.
So I used to watch the soap opera The Young and the Restless years ago, and there was a character who was becoming an alcoholic, and literally every single day they would do the shot where they'd pull the focus in on her like entire huge full tumbler of vodka and then like widen it out so you can see the rest of the scene. This happened every single day, which kind of reminds me of Jorah and his stupid wrist. Like, I get it. She's drinking a freaking huge tumbler of vodka like every day. Anyway, so basically, this is another Game of Thrones tribute to the Princess Bride, in that Jorah is clearly the Prince Humperdinck of Essos, and he finds Dany's ring on the ground. It's a miracle. He can track anything.
Yep, she got on a dragon, flew 100 miles away, but yep, they can find stuff.
Well, I can figure the dragon is probably fairly easy to track, just because they'll have, like the trail of burned animals. Yeah. And, with the horde trampling down the grass, that also makes sense. But it's like, immediately within 5 seconds he finds the ring. I guess, but it's just,
there's a giant bullseye of horse tracks circling around in a radius centered on the ring. So it's kind of easy to just see it right in the middle there.
It would still be hard with that grass and those little white flowers. It'd be a little difficult.
Yeah. He seemed to have no problem. You probably could smell iocane powder as well. So we flip over to Dany, and she's in deep shit as the Dothraki discuss if her carpet matches her drapes. They bring her to Cal Morrow, who, despite his wife's wishes to cut the hot stranger's head off right away, they have this great scene where he talks to his blood riders about how seeing a beautiful woman naked for the first time is the greatest thing in the world. And the blood riders start to argue, and they come up with like 4 other things, which are killing another Khal, conquering a city, taking the idols back to vast Dothrak, and then taming a wild horse. And then Cal Morrow's like, well, okay, it's one of the 5 greatest things in the world, which I loved.
That was that was funny.
I wasn't crazy about this whole little subplot, but I did like that moment.
Oh my gosh. So
it felt like such a dude moment.
I was thinking of Conan the Barbarian.
Yeah.
Which is kind of like a double connection because Jason Momoa played Conan in the remake. Oh. And so there's Conan, what is best in life.
I actually loved this scene, and I kind of compared it mentally to the introduction of the Sand Snakes last year, where you had Obara like expositing to her own sisters her backstory as if like they didn't know her backstory, and it was so awkward. And here it was just like this very natural scene, and so we learned a lot about all these 5 characters without them having to tell us. Like, the wives kind of were the wives kind of had these fun, kind of snarky personalities. The Blood Riders are kind of funny, and they obviously don't fear Cal Morrow. Cal Morrow seems like fairly chill for a Khal. Like, he's not angry with them. He just has to like, okay, yeah, you're right. It's one of the 5. Like, they kind of have this joking, fun family relationship, and they don't have to tell us. They showed us. Like, thank God. It was so much more fun and refreshing, and I instantly actually like all these characters, even though our heroine is in danger from them. Well, she is until she name drops Khal Drogo, and then finds out that nope, she's not going back to Meereen. She's off to Vaz Dothrak. Anyone have a theory about See, I'm totally going full-on soap opera, and Khal Morro is actually the long-lost brother of Khal Drogo. Like, I'm just assuming.
What? Why?
I don't know. Because that just seems like something that would happen. Because they also mentioned, they called him Khal Drogo, son of Khal Barbo. And then I'm thinking, like, oh, clarify that this Barbo is both of their fathers.
Maybe. I don't know. I normally don't care much about what happens to Dany, but I did think that Clark did an okay job here, which for me is very high praise.
That is. They must have worn you down with all the other shit in the episode, huh?
Yeah, pretty much. It was nice to see, the hot-looking people again, and I do like the Dothraki. I think that's kind of interesting. I just felt a lot of it was a little, I don't know, the whole discussion about does the carpeting match the drapes, I was just like, really? Okay. I guess that was always a thing. I
guess I'm just going to be the devil's advocate this episode, because I kind of like that scene because it showed Dany having, like, another strong moment where she's got this secret where she, secretly speaks Dothraki, but she's not going to let on tell anyone that she does until, because it's like a power that she can hold over them and pull out her secret weapon at the last second. Dany's the master of, like, holding aces up her sleeves, Or
she finds the highest ranking person that she can get to, essentially, before she gives up the goods.
Yeah, I thought that was well done. I thought she did an okay job. I don't have any issues with that. I was just a little bit, I'm kind of done with the over-sexualized talk every 2 seconds. I realize this is what I signed up for, but
welcome to HBO.
Yeah.
Though, no, you can't tell me that. I've watched way too many HBO shows. I mean, even on The Wire, when they had that scene where they just used the word fuck for the entire scene, which was awesome. It's probably one of the best moments of television I've ever seen. It wasn't necessarily about that, and this just felt like, oh, we have to have this.
There was a whole plot thread in The Sopranos about, like, the grandfather eating pussy and whether or not that made him gay.
What?
Yeah, I remember that, Uncle Junior. Yeah, but I mean, there were other things going on in that episode, and it wasn't just that stuff.
No,
and
there's other things going on in Game of Thrones.
Not much.
So full of vitriol, comma.
I hated this so much, and actually, no. I want to take that back. I'm watching it. We won't say how and all this other stuff, but I had other things going on. I had internet going out. I had technology failing me, and normally that would be a cause for extreme anxiety. But it was mostly meh. Oh, okay. I'll wait till it kicks back on. It wasn't until I had to rewatch it and take notes that the hate just started to, like, set in. Mostly I was indifferent. Mostly I thought this is extremely unexciting, poorly edited, choppy, really shittily written TV. And I'm going to stand by that.
The scenery was nice.
I think there's a factor where the fandom sort of eats itself, too.
It was nice scenery, and they had some nice moments. There was some good acting. The casting's always been good. I like what we're seeing of the new costumes.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I love the man dresses or the man skirts in Bravos. I was very happy about that.
I really loved Ser Jorah's destrier. His horse.
They were gorgeous.
So beautiful, and the way he would trot, it was beautiful. Yeah. I love that horse.
Although Brienne had a different horse, she didn't have her little Goldie anymore.
I didn't notice that. Good catch.
So we, speaking of Bravos, our second to last scene is Arya, who is a blind beggar on the street of Bravos. And as she's sitting there begging, we hear snippets of conversation, and the only thing I could make out was someone saying, after what happened to that Kingsguard, which I thought was interesting that was something that we were allowed to hear. Mm-hmm. And the waif comes to taunt her and beat the crap out of her, and apparently on a daily basis. And I do think that the waif might have the most fun role in the show. Like, all she does is just wail on Maisie Williams. Like, it's kind of a fun role. But not a lot going on in that scene yet. So we end the episode back at Castle Black. Just for the record, Jon Snow, still dead. Thorne comes to the door where Davos and the gang have barricaded themselves in with Jon's dead body, and he offers them amnesty and Davos free passage south. And Davos kind of tells him he also wants some mutton, which was funny. And Thorne agrees, but no one thinks they're really getting out of there alive, and Ed tells the guys that they're going to need Melisandre because he's seen what she can do. And then we get the kicker, where the scene switches as Mel's getting ready for sleep, and she takes off her red dress and her necklace and reveals her ancient face and body as she wearily slides into bed. So for those of you who were not spoiled about this, what was your reaction?
I was excited that they showed Melisandre and how old she was, because we get that in the books implicitly, and now we just get it explicitly in the show. And I was trying to read something more about the scene of like how she reacts to it, and she just gets in the bed. But after thinking about it for a long time, I came to the conclusion that they just wanted to show us that Melisandre's old, and that was really the point of the scene.
And that she's evil. That's what they said.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Because I can remember, I think, was it last season where they showed Melisandre, she's taking a bath, and she has that necklace off.
Yeah, I think someone theorized that like she had all those potions, or the more interesting theorization I read was that Selyse was just such a true believer
that she didn't see her as...
Yeah, she didn't see her as she was.
That's interesting.
The spell could be like cast on the necklace, and the necklace just needs to be near her, but maybe she just decast a spell and then took it off. It doesn't necessarily have to be bound to whether or not she's wearing it. It could just be proximity, and she just deactivated it and then took it off. Know what I mean?
But you're making me think too hard.
That's what a game master does.
Well, yeah, I mean, like, if you're gonna do that, that's fine. But again, it's professionally produced TV with people who should be knowing what they're doing, and a lot of this stuff should have either been thought. I don't think they have a plan. It's just very sloppy.
I liked this last scene quite a bit. I thought I liked the note of world weariness, and kind of. She's so beat down, and I kind of love her playing those notes, and I don't,
it felt like, you know how like you've had a really bad day or a long day, you get home, well, of course this is only going to apply to a few of us here.
Get in your sweatpants and your favorite hoodie, and
you take your bra
off. Yep. And you're like, thank God,
totally
and that sort of, that's what it, and I kind of appreciated that note that, she doesn't always want to be the hot sorceress.
It's going to make the eventual Davos Mel hate sex really awkward, though.
And I'm there for that. So
I mean, I'm still there for it. I'm not going to lie. And I was re-listening to some of our old preview episodes, and we've been talking about Mel Davos hate sex since the very first season 6 preview. So it's been going for a long time.
Well, he's not exactly a spring chicken either. So I mean, well, she's a couple hundred years older or whatever. But.
Yeah, she's got a few hundred years on him. Any last words in the episode before we send it over to Eon for mail?
One of the things that I really, whenever I watched that scene, I had this thought, and I really hope to God this doesn't happen. But, I mean, it shows that it's a glamour. She has a glamour.
Right.
And it shows that she has power. Everybody that's read the book, we're all like, yeah, Jon Snow's she's gonna raise Jon Snow up. She's got to. He's gonna have to come back. And I had this thought, and I'm just like, what if...
Oh, do it. Yes. Yes.
What if, like, Jon Snow is actually her? It's a glamour.
Yes.
What?
I want to hear...
I'm thinking the other way, where she glamours herself to look like Jon Snow.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. What if she glamours herself to look like
I want to hear
That would be
voice.
Amazing.
What?
Do Jon Snow. That's awesome.
I hope that really doesn't happen, but that's what... It just immediately popped into my head whenever I saw that scene.
I kind of hope it does happen.
It's going to make the hate sex with Davos more interesting, I guess.
It would.
And then she'll glamour herself into Stannis because,
I gotta say, I've been trying to find a way for like the past 3 years to find a way to love the show again, and it just needs to go full bore insane. Like, let's do this shit. I mean, papillons. Hunting Graham, or I'm in for that. I could like that. If they went like a telenovela level of craziness, I could forgive so much. So much. Just go full on soap opera. Let's do this shit. But no, I don't think I'm going to get that.
My last note on this scene is that this is what Maggie the Frog should have looked like in the premiere of season 5.
Totally.
I so agree with you. Yes,
right
that
there with
irked me so much. Yeah, that's a Great point.
So, Ian, have you got some mail for us?
I do have some mail, a lot of mail.
Uh-oh.
All right, we got one from Underwater Woods. It says, love the latest episode. You guys are so right. All the differing opinions came out, and it was great. I love hearing about your preferences outside of JB, knowing I always have the mutual JB flailing to come back to. This podcast is a bright light in a dark place with the new season coming up. I'm sort of looking forward to your episodes more than the show episodes themselves. Plus, lots enduring Stoneheart hope gives me life. Thanks as always for the entertainment, ladies. We got an anon, and it asks, is Qyburn
My favorite character? Yes.
Yes. Is he a gynecologist?
I mean, I think he is, kind of. I mean, I think all the maesters are, right?
Yeah, they birthed the babies.
Well, and he was checking Brienne, to see if she was healthy.
I think they're all-purpose doctors. I mean, I think that's their role as part of that.
Family practitioners.
Politicians.
Do you think there's a vaginal link in their chain?
God. Oh my God! It's brilliant.
All right, another one from Underwater Woods. From Underwater Woods is an interpretation of episode 6. An interpretation of season 6, episode 1. Everything is the worst except Brienne swearing fealty to Sansa and Davos liking mutton.
If by worst you mean best, then yes.
Yeah.
I liked the Dothraki stuff the best, totally, honestly.
You just like the horses.
I love the "this meat is still good" line. I love it so much.
I'm with our letter writer there. I thought most of it was shed, but if you haven't figured that part out by now, there's no hope for you.
You probably need another shot of Jorah's wrist to figure out what's happening.
When Locke comes back from the dead and kills me, I give you guys permission to feed my body to the dogs.
Okay.
Yeah. We'll make note.
Watkins chow.
Let's see, we got a 1-star review on iTunes from Hop Hero. It says, hard to listen to. I tried this podcast but couldn't get through 15 minutes of it. Too many people talking over each other with varying sound levels.
I hate it when people talk on podcasts. It's the worst.
Yeah.
I mean, she's not wrong. They're not wrong, but, we try.
Yeah, we try. And I'm wondering if this was one of our earlier episodes, because at that time it was still uncharted territory. We were grabbing any type of mic we had, and some of our sound quality was it was crap back in the day.
Well, if that listener is still listening, which I probably aren't.
I doubt it.
I'm going to recommend the upcoming Blackhorn episodes, because I isolated audio tracks and edited them to be higher quality. And the RPG episodes, yeah.
So in 10 weeks, listen again.
Yeah. I to that listener, I feel you, and I'm doing my best.
Let's see. Allison in Westeros says, hi, ladies. Always a pleasure to talk with you and a highlight of my week. I'm still on the quest listening to back episodes, although I think I'm caught up to where I started, so I'm enjoying this second time around. Shout out for Cluster Paloozas, Drunk Cast, and Clotho Style. Hi! I'm listening to your first Season 6 update from last year and just wanted to note that while I do believe now that Stannis is pushing up daisies, maybe weird daisies, back last year I wasn't quite sure. I'm a girl that loves A Song of Ice and Fire conspiracy, and I'm sitting here at my desk at work in my tinfoil women's career wear. Haha. But it wasn't necessarily why I thought he was still alive or that I couldn't accept the Manus' demise. Truly, there were just a couple of things in my mind. First being the Winds Theon chapter where Stannis says, "It may be that we shall lose this battle," the king said grimly. "In Bravos, you may hear that I am dead. It may even be true. you shall find my swords nonetheless. And secondly, and more importantly, they cut away. When does God even cut away? They love every bit of gratuitous sex and violence they can cram into an episode, so it made me bonkers trying to figure out why all of a sudden they grew some sort of conscience. I now suspect the reason for cutting away was less about not wanting to show a grisly Stannis death and more about not wanting the viewers to see Brienne doing the deed. Like maybe we wouldn't love her as much, which is totally absurd. How could we love Brienne less? But what do you think? If that's the case, I'm glad they made the choice. I just wish this was their choice more often. There's so much more rapey, murdery, sexposition-y stuff a girl can take. I do have hopes for this season, but maybe I'm a sunny side up optimist. As always, thanks for the podcast, and I will depend on you to get me through this season no matter what D&Ds decide to slop out. Love, Alice in Westerlo.
Is it possible to be a sunny side down optimist?
There's an answer to her question, though. I read, I can't remember whose interview it was. It had to do with, I believe, with safety, and how they were, how the scene had been blocked and the proximity, and I don't think it had anything to do with characterization or not wanting to show the blood and guts stuff. It just had to do with like the mechanics of the scene and what was going on.
Like they didn't want Gwendolyn to actually kill Stephen Delane.
Yeah, I think that was part of it. And I think it was also it would have been kind of awkward to film, I think I read. Again, I think it was the closeness. He was sitting down, right? If I remember.
Yeah, he was slumped against the tree.
So I think in their height differentials and all sorts of things. So I think it was purely mechanical why they chose not to do that.
Mm-hmm.
I think part of it is also they want people talking about the show, so they might have like purposefully left it a little bit vague so people could theorize, oh, Stannis isn't really dead because they didn't show it. Because it just generates hype, and to them that's more money, you know?
Mm.
I think I read it. It was somebody, it was an interview with the director or it was somebody authoritative talking about why they chose that, but that could be too.
Good question. I love crackpot theories.
Let's see. We got one from Dot, and it says, "Hi guys. First off, let me say that I love your podcast. I found it last year, and I've been listening regularly ever since. I tried to find similarly smart, funny, and savvy podcasts for my other fandoms, but I've come up short. You guys set a high bar. I was listening to some of your older episodes while cleaning today. Specifically, Close the Door episode 11, where you cover season 4, episode 10 of GOT. You were talking about the sex scene between Jaime and Cersei in the White Sword Tower and how it's late in Jaime's arc to be having sex with Cersei. This combined with last night's scene got me wondering about D&D's reasoning for the continued relationship between Jaime and Cersei. A fool's errand, I know. Last season, Jaime only left King's Landing because Cersei asked him to. I'm starting to think D&D saw Cersei and Jaime's estrangement in the books not as the culmination of them growing apart. Tyrion revealing Cersei's infidelities, Cersei's disapproval of Jaime's decisions, etc. You know, character development. But as Cersei's decision. So here's my question. Do you think that on the show that the only way Jaime will leave is if he's sent away by Cersei? Whether because D&D interpret their split up in the books as entirely of Cersei's choosing, or because they thought it would be a narrative shortcut. The prospect has made me deeply worried about the Jaime-Brienne reunion, because if Jaime goes away while still romantically invested in Cersei, I don't think I could stomach seeing Jaime pursue Brienne or JB banging when Jaime's heart isn't in it. I sincerely hope they won't go down that route. But I feel like the show is running out of reasons and time for Jaime and Cersei to have a huge fight that estranged them. On a happier note, how about Gwendolyn's acting in last night's episode? The tears in her eyes as she pledged her sword to Sansa made me tear up.
Yeah, you weren't alone.
No, you weren't. But, whew.
You okay there, Ian?
Yeah, this is a lot of reading.
I mean,
You did a good job.
basically Jaime's been in a stalled, he's been in a stalled mental position for, 2 years now. So I think a lot of the frustration we have in the show is frustration of, his plot not going anywhere. And I can't imagine, Nikolai not only having to answer the asinine, is Jon Snow alive questions interview after interview, but still having to, say the same bullshit about the Jaime-Cersei relationship for 3 years now.
I think a little patience will go a long way here, because they're going to split up. And to answer the questioner's question, I do think it's possible for Jaime to come to a realization himself of if Cersei crosses some line by going so crazy of killing someone that Jaime doesn't necessarily want to be killed, or maybe she sends an assassin after Brienne, and then Jaime realizes, holy shit, Cersei's crazy, I need to go save Brienne, and then he leaves her of his own accord, not instead of her sending him away.
Yeah, Yeah, I'm right there with you, Watkins. I think the whole Cersei Lancel thing is going to be revealed this season.
Yeah,
and that's probably going to be the split.
We have to wait to see what Bran's up to. We have to wait for Dany to get to Essos. Or Westeros. We have to wait for Arya to finish her faceless training. We have to wait for all of these character stuff to finish.
It's been 24 years.
We're in season 6. There
have
are
a little
2 more
patience.
years.
It'll happen eventually. Enjoy the ride. Don't think about.
God.
Don't think about.
Get out.
Romeo and Juliet dying at the end of the story. The enjoyment is coming from the path, the journey to get there, not what happened.
Well, there's absolutely no enjoyment in the Jaime Cersei scenes, at all. So, I mean, part of that is that, we've just been, especially with Jaime, we've been served up an utter pile of shit. We get the shit Jaime Cersei scenes, and then Dorne. The only thing that in the past last year, the only decent thing was the scene with Lawless and Bronn. That's it. Otherwise, it was just complete and utter shit. Anyway, I'm
yeah. Oh, we got a lot of emails from our favorite listener, Lady Blade. And I just wanted to say thank you so much for sending in those emails, Lady Blade. We always love receiving them and reading them, and you always make our day. And thank you.
Is that it?
Yeah. Well, we have one more. We have one more. We got one more, and it's from our very own Lady of Tarth -Post.
Who?
And she
writing,
believe it or not, she wrote from the grave. It's beyond the grave. Yeah. First off, I'm so sorry I'm missing episode 1 recap, but I was offered an actual paying gig, and money trumps podcast. www.patreon.com/close the door. First episode of season 6 has us visiting a little bit of everyone, which I appreciated. Big fan of Brienne's scene. Not so much naked Mel. My question is to you, do you think there's any merit to having her naked?
I think if she's finally going to be naked, this actually served a point, other than just to be eye candy. I mean, to a certain extent, it gets old after a while, but I was fine with this because I thought it actually served a purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It wasn't just, let me just rip off my dress now, which has happened in the past.
And it's her own gaze on her, This
it wasn't. Yeah, exactly.
Also, Dorne wackiness continues. Why do I have a sinking feeling that D&D and proceeding with Dorne to try and make a point, they refuse to respond to the overwhelming criticism? I'm sure you've already beaten it. What?
Wait, somebody hates the Dorne scenes?
I know, right? Someone hates them.
Inconceivable.
I'm sure you've already... Yeah. I'm sure you've already beaten it to death by now, but fuck show Jaime and his simpering obsession with Cersei. What the fuck is this guy? His name's Larry, Lot. His name's Larry. But she says, see you next week, kids. Hugs and kisses -Post.
So I think that wraps it up our show for tonight, and you can find us on iTunes, on Twitter at Door Podcast, on Tumblr, actually on Facebook, and you can also subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you want Lot back, apparently you need to become a Patreon, and then we can afford Lot on a consistent basis. So next week we'll be back with episode 2, Home, where you can get more exciting Game of Thrones coverage from us. See you all. Thanks, Watkins.
You're welcome. May all your mouths be fuckable.
Oh, God.
Never gonna live that down.
Waiting for that. Good night, everyone.
Night.
Night.